What's up, everybody? It's your man, MG Marcus Grant. And are you looking to stay up to date with the latest goings-on of your favorite, or maybe not so favorite NFL team? Well, how do you do that? You go directly to the source. Every week, Matty Kroll is doing just that with On the Beat, talking to beat reporters from across the National Football League. Be sure to check it out each and every week on 32-Bit.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to On Beat with Matty Kroll. I'm your host, Matty Kroll, and today I'm joined by Darren Urban, who is the director of editorial content. I was so nervous I was going to mess that up. And senior writer at azcardinals.com. You have been an Arizona Cardinals beat reporter for 22 years. Is that right?
Yeah,
since 2000?
Yes, correct.
That's a long time. I guess they're going to keep you around, huh?
Yeah. Well, I haven't been here the whole time. I was working at a newspaper for the first 7 of those years. But yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that this is what I'm going to be doing for the near future.
That's a lot of writing.
Yeah, it is. But that's kind of what I was born into doing. And I've wanted to be a sports writer since I was about 9 or 10. So this has worked out well for me.
Okay, well, let's get into the football side of things. First question I want to ask is, with the team kind of sputtering towards the end of the season this year, is Cliff Kingsbury on the hot seat going into next year?
You know, I think, it's a little early to know that. You know, just like if somebody asked me, you know, what exactly are the Cardinals going to do in 2022 in terms of a record? I mean, we're sitting here, technically the NFL season hasn't even ended yet because of the Super Bowl. So, you know, I'm definitely a wait and see kind of person when it comes to that. I want to see what this roster construction looks like. I want to see what they do in free agency. I want to see what they do in the draft. I want to kind of see where the moving pieces are. Going into last year, people had some of the same questions about Cliff and what the team might do. And ultimately, there's nuance there. I mean, you can't just say, hey, if they have X record, he's going to be gone. If they have X record, he's safe. However that works. I mean, I've seen it happen. I mean, look what happened this past season. If you just look big picture, they had 11 wins. They made the playoffs. Why would this even be a conversation for most people?
Yes.
But there's nuance. It's how it ended and where it went. So I kind of need to see where they are. And that's a question I think that's better addressed again as we get to the, you know, training camp and kind of where they sit as a franchise, I think.
I think that's a great take, because I'm sure you know this better than anybody else. When we get towards the end of the season and we start talking Super Bowl, everybody's kind of defeated if their team's not there. But then once we get the new guys coming through after the draft and training camp starts, it's like a new sense of hope. Everybody's hopeful and optimistic and excited for the season, and a lot of that talk kind of dies down.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've nailed that, because and especially this league where, you know, the Bengals are in the Super Bowl right now, and they were terrible last year. And this league is about a potential turnaround in a very short amount of time. So you just don't know. So I think that's a very astute observation.
Okay, well, let's get into some of the Kyler Murray drama that's happening, or has happened last week. We have to talk about it because everybody else in the world is talking about it right now. I will say, so last week, he kind of took to social media, deleted a bunch of his pictures off Instagram and all that good stuff. And then today, the Arizona Cardinals account tweeted or got rid of all their photos except for 2, and they're only of Kyler Murray. So I kind of thought that was funny, but I kind of wanted to get your opinion on the whole situation. Is this because of contract negotiations, or are these just rumors that are popping up?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I haven't talked to Kyler. As far as I know, no one has been able to talk to Kyler in terms of what's going on with Instagram. And obviously, he has chosen not to say anything publicly about it. So I think it's all a guessing game right now. I understand why there's a bunch of speculation on it. There always is when there's social media involved in high-profile athletes. So I don't know. I don't know exactly why he did what he did. All I know is what the facts are right now, which is Kyler Murray is eligible for a contract extension right now, has not gotten it as of yet, although I'd have to look. Even the players that got it right after their third season, was it already by January? I don't know about that. Yeah. So I don't even know about that possible. We know that He's under contract for next year. There's a team option for him for 2023 that the Cardinals have until May to exercise, which if they don't do an extension, I fully expect them to exercise that. So, and I can't say with 100% certainty, but I feel like 99.9% certainty that Kyler Murray is going to be quarterbacking this team in the fall, whether, he has a new contract or not. So those are the things I know. The rest of it, unfortunately, is speculation until Kyler decides to make sure there's no more speculation about it.
Do you feel like there's any cause for concern surrounding cap space and the contract negotiations with what he's asking or reportedly asking?
Again, don't know what he's asking for. You figure that he's going to be asking to be one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid quarterback. That's how these things go, especially with quarterbacks.
And Josh Allen just got super paid.
Right. So, but in terms of the cap space, if you've spent any time around this league, it doesn't matter what your cap space is. A team can find a way to make it work. Now, the thing about cap space and quarterback extensions is, can you construct a contract that pays the guy what he wants and that you're comfortable paying and give you enough elbow room to construct the rest of the roster around him? That's the concern. That's why everybody's always talking about, striking when the iron is hot when your quarterback's on the rookie deal, because, even this past year, the Chiefs managed to give Patrick Mahomes a contract extension that made his cap number $7 million this year. Kyler's cap number was actually bigger than Patrick Mahomes this year, but next year, Patrick Mahomes' cap number goes all the way up to $35 million. So the Chiefs roster is going to look different because it has to. So those are the things you got to take into consideration.
So many moving parts on that.
Yes.
So many moving parts on that.
Yes.
Christian Kirk has recently been vocal saying that his future with the Cardinals and free agency has a lot to do with Kyler Murray's future with the Cardinals. Have you heard any other opinions like that from any other players?
I haven't. And, I think, to be fair to Christian, he was asked directly, does Kyler Murray's future impact his future? Of course, he's going to say yes. It means something if you have a place with a quarterback. But the reality is like I said, Kyler Murray is going to be the quarterback of this team next year. And Christian Kirk is going to have to make a decision in the next 3 months what his future is. So Christian Kirk, in terms of Kyler Murray's long-term, I don't think it's really going to impact Christian Kirk and his next contract. So I haven't heard any other players. I think guys are going to have to do what they're going to have to do. If the Cardinals offer Christian Kirk the most money, I think he's going to stay, even if he doesn't have any clarity about Kyler Murray. And if there's another team somewhere else, even if he loves playing with Kyler Murray, that's offering him a lot more money than the Cardinals, I think Christian Kirk is going to take that. So
yeah, again, you hang out with your buddy outside season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into some of the free agents, because the Arizona Cardinals have a lot of big name free agents that are going to be making decisions this offseason. I kind of want to start with Chandler Jones. He's obviously one of the best in the league. Is Arizona considering tagging Jones?
You know what? I don't kind of know where that stands right now. The tag is an option. It's an expensive option, but it's a short-term option if they want to only keep him around one more year. The Chandler Jones thing is going to be potentially the most interesting thing the Cardinals do in free agency all year. Is this a repeat of the Patrick Peterson free agency last year, where you have a longtime star that in the end doesn't really have a chance to come back and ends up going somewhere else? Or will the Cardinals really work to bring him back? I would have thought there would be some conversations by now that Cardinals may be just trying to see what his market value is. But I would think a guy coming off a Pro Bowl with 10 sacks is going to have a market, even if he's on the wrong side of 30. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. And even just his leadership, we saw how much he drastically impacted the game when he was on the sidelines versus not. So that's something that I think that they're going to have to take into consideration. What about James Conner, one of my favorite players?
James had a fantastic year, obviously. He brought so much to this team. in the locker room, on the field for sure. They needed a short yardage / goal line back, and he was that and more for them. I think they'd love to have him back. But again, the market dictates this kind of stuff. And the Cardinals, after they paid David Johnson their huge contract back in 2017, I think they're not doing that anymore. They're going to be smart with their running backs. And there was a reason James Conner was on the market last year for such a cheap amount of money, was because most teams look at it that way. I think there's a chance he could come back. It only takes one other team to really pay a lot. But I think with running backs, I think the Cardinals are going to have a number in mind where they want to go with James Conner or Chase Edmonds. And if another team's willing to go above that, they're just going to say, thank you for your service, but we're going to move in a different direction. I think that's how that plays out. And we'll see what that means.
Do you think there's any chance that they'll bring back both backs?
I think there's a chance, but again, what are the chances that they don't get paid big one other place, both of them? That could be tough. I think they love what the two of them bring, but again, they're going to be smart with the kind of contracts they hand out.
I completely agree. I also think that, especially with what happened this offseason with all of the running backs across the league, we're not sure how everyone's going to come back, and are they going to be healthy? Are they going to be able to make an impact? So this could be something that could change even mid-season next year. Okay, what about Zach Ertz? So we have Max Williams, Zach Ertz. Do you have any information, thoughts? How are you looking at that situation?
I have thoughts. I think Zach Ertz is a very interesting kind of setup. One, I think they like Zach Ertz is probably a little bit more of a pass catcher than blocker. Where I think they feel like Max Williams does a little bit of both. And, I think that worked out really well. Again, perfect world, you're able to keep both of them. Realistic world, you probably aren't going to be able to keep both of them. And is there a team out there that's willing to give Zach a chunk of money that you might not be able to afford or necessarily fit into what you're doing? This team has never really leaned on a tight end much until Zach Ertz showed up, and they might be willing to go back to Max Williams, assuming he's coming back from the ACL, which I think he will. He's probably a cheaper version, and I think they need two tight ends. That I think they could use both of them. But again, being able to afford them is a whole different thing. Their cap space is not going to be great to the point where when we start talking about all these guys, all it's going to take is a really good offer from somewhere else, and they're probably going to get outbid for some of these guys. That's what I see happening.
It's going to have to happen with this many big names that we're talking about. I agree, though. I think that they would benefit tremendously from having two tight ends, especially if they can alter it. We saw Kansas City do the same thing, gave Patrick Mahomes a little bit more protection, and he was able to do a little bit more in the pocket. Okay, I also wanted to kind of talk about, Antoine Wesley and how that kind of paid off. It's a crowded receiver room. Do you think that he's proved himself, earned a spot coming back and getting some more playing time next year? All of the good things.
I think it's going to depend a lot on what the receiver room looks like. AJ Green and Christian Kirk are free agents. So what happens with them? I think Kirk's got a chance to get a decent payday on the open market that I don't know if he's going to get here. We'll see. AJ Green's an interesting thing. He had okay numbers and was healthy, but he and Kyler never quite seemed to click, and I don't know if that's going to impact anything. You got DeAndre Hopkins coming back. You could use Antoine Wesley, but do you spend a draft pick on another receiver to put across from Hopkins if that happens? And then you got Rondale Moore for the slot. Wesley's on this team next year. I don't think there's any question about that, but will he get a lot more playing time? I would guess that probably not, unless there's injuries, again, depending on how they kind of fill out that room.
Absolutely. Okay. I have one last fun one. This actually came from a few of my buddies. Do you have a favorite Larry Fitz story?
Do I have a favorite Larry Fitzgerald story? I probably have some. I probably have a couple that I'm not going to say. This is an interesting one, and it was a big deal to me because it kind of made me look good in front of my brother. A number of years ago, the Super Bowl was in Phoenix, and I was invited to a Pro Football Writers dinner during the week of the Super Bowl in downtown, and my wife couldn't go, so I took my brother, who thought it was cool just to be in a room of writers, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's John Clayton over there and a couple other people," and so he that was cool all by himself. And we're driving in downtown Phoenix when it was over, and there was nothing else going on that night. So downtown Phoenix, it's one of those places that is pretty dead when there's not events going on. So we're driving back the back part to get out to the freeway, and it's really dark on the street, and it's not like there's a light there. And all of a sudden, these two guys are crossing in the dark, and I kind of have to hit the brakes a little bit because I didn't see them coming. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys are going to get themselves killed. And then all of a sudden, I see one of them peering in my window, and it's Larry.
Oh my God.
And he comes up to my window, and he's like, "Darren, what are you doing here?" And he's sitting and looking in my window, and I'm not sure who he was with, a friend of his or whatever. I'm like, "Well, we just had this dinner." I said, "What are you doing down here?" And he's like, "Well, we were down here for the taste of the Super Bowl, that thing where they do the food stuff."
Yeah.
He was like, "I was just down here, so I was walking to whatever." And I don't know, we talked for like 2 minutes, and he's sitting in there talking to me, and I'm like, "Well, I'll catch you later. Enjoy yourself." He's like, "Yeah, I'll see you later." And he walks away, and I roll up my window. My brother's like, "Dude, that was Larry Fitzgerald." I was like, "Oh my God." And he just got a total kick out of the fact that, Larry stopped to talk to me and talk to us. And it was pretty cool. And it made me feel like kind of a big deal, but yeah, it was interesting.
That's a huge deal. I love that he was just peering through your window too.
Yeah,
Just like,
it was strange, just, especially when you're in the dark and it's downtown Phoenix and there's just two random people. Now I knew right away how they were dressed. It wasn't like, just somebody staying downtown. I knew it had something Super Bowl related, but still, my first thought was, "Oh my God, like what if he was crossing the street in the dark and somebody didn't see him and hit him with a car?"
right.
I mean, that would be kind of a big Super Bowl story, like star receiver gets hit by a car during Super Bowl week. But
That's
it was all
insane.
good.
What a fun story, though.
So.
What a fun story. Okay, well, tell everybody where they can find you so they can keep up with all of your sarcastic, sometimes funny, good information.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Cards Chatter, just like it sounds, CARDSCHATTER. And then, of course, all my content is on azcardinals.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody needs to check him out. And any last words of wisdom, parting thoughts?
Not really. I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay. Well, we will catch you guys next time.